All right, welcome. We're about to dive into a universe that might be hiding right in front of our faces. We're going to push the limits of what we think we see and ask a really big question. What are we missing? And maybe more importantly, why are we missing it? Let's get into it.
So let me just kick things off with a simple question for you. Do you really trust your own eyes? I mean, we all like to think our eyes are like these perfect little video cameras, just recording everything exactly as it happens. But what if I told you that's not even close to being true?
Okay, check this out. It's a classic study called the door experiment. An actor stops someone on the street and asks for directions. Simple enough. But then, as they're talking, two guys carrying a big wooden door walk right between them. In that one moment, the actor is swapped out for a totally different person. Different height, different clothes, different voice. And the crazy part, over half the people don't even notice. They just keep giving directions to a complete stranger. It's a wild phenomenon called change blindness.
And look, this isn't just some fun little psychology trick. The stakes can be, well, life and death. Back in 1972, Eastern Airlines Flight 401 went down and over 100 people died. Why? The entire highly trained flight crew got so fixated on a single tiny burnt-out light bulb that not one of them noticed the plane was slowly descending into the Florida Everglades. Their intense focus created a fatal blind spot. So what if we take that exact same idea, that same potential for blindness, and apply it not to a cockpit, but to the endless black of space? What could we be missing out there?
So let's go there. Let's look up, way up into the thermosphere, a place where you'd think there are no distractions, no doors, just the pure, unfiltered reality of space. But is that really the case?
So get this, on at least 10 different shuttle missions, NASA's own cameras, we're talking official footage here, recorded these weird objects more than 200 miles up. And these weren't just ice crystals or space junk. They were filmed moving in ways that, frankly, make no sense. They changed direction on a dime, accelerated instantly, things our aircraft just can't do.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because you have this direct conflict. During one mission, STS-75, Mission Control tried to write off what the cameras were seeing as simple reflections. But the commander in orbit, the guy actually looking out the window, he wasn't having it. He came right back and said, no, I've got 3 objects out here, and they're moving away.
And you might think, okay, maybe that was a fluke, but it's not. If we rewind all the way to 1965 to the Gemini missions, you have an astronaut like James Lovell, the Apollo 13 guy, cool as a cucumber, calmly reporting a bogey. And when Houston suggested it might be their own rocket booster, his response was crystal clear. We have several actual sightings.
And this goes all the way to the top. We're talking about the Apollo 11 crew on their way to the moon. They saw something strange pacing their ship, something L-shaped. They were cautious, They didn't want to yell UFO, so they just casually asked Mission Control, hey, any idea where our old SIB rocket stage is? The answer that came back must have been a gut punch. The SIV is about 6,000 nautical miles from you now. Whatever they were seeing, it wasn't theirs.
And if you thought that was weird, the descriptions just get stranger. On another shuttle mission, STS-115, the commander described an object that sounds completely bizarre. Not a solid ship, not nuts and bolts technology, but something like a reflective cloth, a structure that wasn't rigid at all. So what in the world could that possibly be? Okay, so a reflective cloth, something that's not rigid. These descriptions just don't fit anything we know. But what if we're asking the wrong question? What if it's not technology at all? What if it's a form of something else entirely? To even begin to unpack that, we have to talk about the fourth state of matter. I'm talking about plasma. We all learn about solids, liquids, and gases. Well, plasma is the fourth one. Think of it as a super-energized gas, a chaotic soup of charged particles. Our sun? That's a giant ball of plasma. Lightning? That's plasma. In fact, pretty much everything you can see in the night sky, stars, nebulas, it's all plasma. It makes up over 99% of the visible universe.
Okay, so hang on, because this is where the theory goes into some really wild territory. When scientists started analyzing the shuttle footage of these objects, the words they used to describe the behaviors were biological. They weren't saying it moved. They were describing things like hunting and predatory behavior. They saw these things swarming together, congregating in huge groups. They even appeared to be replicating, growing. They reacted to energy, changed direction instantly, and left behind trails of what they called plasma dust. I mean, listen to those words. That doesn't sound like a machine. It sounds like it's alive. And here's the kicker. This isn't new, not at all. If you look back through history, you find these weirdly similar reports. Back in 1808, people in Sweden described seeing these frantic, translucent air bubbles in the sky. During World War II, pilots on all sides reported these glowing balls they called Foo Fighters that would zip around their planes. Then you have the astronauts in the 60s, and of course the now famous Tic Tac videos from Navy pilots. Is it possible we're looking at the same thing over and over, just using different words for it?
Look, I get it. Life like plasma. It sounds like something straight out of Star Trek, right? But believe it or not, the scientific community is already tearing up the rulebook on what life even means.
Let's take a trip way out to Saturn's biggest moon, Titan. It's an incredible world. It has rivers, lakes, even rain, but none of it is water. It's liquid methane and ethane. The temperature is a staggering -179 Celsius. And yet, right now, scientists are seriously working on models for how life could actually exist in that environment.
This table right here, it really just lays it all out. Life on Earth is water-based. Our cells have a fatty membrane, a lipid bilayer, that works perfectly in water. But on Titan, in that freezing cold methane, our kind of cell would just fall apart. So scientists came up with a wild idea, a hypothetical cell membrane made of nitrogen compounds they call an azotomosome. It would be tough and flexible even at those insane temperatures. We're not just talking about a different animal here. We're talking about a completely different blueprint for life itself.
And that right there, that brings us all the way back to where we started, back to the door experiment, back to our own blind spots. Could it be that our entire search for life in the universe is suffering from the biggest case of change blindness imaginable?
There's a word for this. It's called anthropocentrism. It's our default setting. It's the deep-seated, unconscious bias that makes us see everything through a human lens. So when we search for life, we're automatically, without even thinking about it, looking for life like us, carbon-based, water-loving, living on a cozy little rock like Earth.
And what this bias does is it creates something called cognitive dissonance. That's the uncomfortable feeling you get when you see something that just completely shatters your worldview. So when an astronaut reports seeing a reflective cloth in orbit, or a scientist describes plasma as hunting, our brains freak out a little. And to get rid of that discomfort, the easiest thing to do is to just dismiss it. To say, oh, it must be reflections, or it's just ice. It's easier than rebuilding our entire understanding of what life is.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's that our brains aren't video cameras. They're not passively recording reality. They are active, aggressive, and honestly, pretty biased filtering machines.
Just look at this number for a second. 100 million. That is how many bits of visual information your eyeballs are blasting into your brain every single second. It's a fire hose of data. There is no way, absolutely no way, you can consciously process all of that. So your brain has to cheat. It creates a model of how the world is supposed to work, and then it filters reality to fit that model. It throws out anything that doesn't fit. It fills in the gaps. We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are.
Which leaves us with this one final, really huge question. If these strange plasmas really are some kind of inorganic life, and if life really could exist in the frozen lakes of Titan, what else are we completely blind to? What happens if we actually change our definition of life? What if we start looking for things that aren't like us at all? Could it be that we'd suddenly find the universe is absolutely teeming with it? The answer might be right there, hiding in plain sight, just waiting for us to finally open our eyes.